The hum of the THRYNN9 colony's main reactor thrummed through the metal floors, a deep vibration that made Kyra's claws tingle in rhythm. Neon lights from the bustling market corridors outside spilled through the tall observation windows, painting the chamber in streaks of electric violet and jade. She moved like a shadow, every step deliberate, every muscle coiled with a lethal grace that had earned her the title of the unyielding. Traders, miners, and alien workers glanced their way with a mixture of awe and fear. Kyra didn't notice. Kyra wasn't concerned with their gaze. A sudden alarm sliced through the ambient hum. Sharp, jarring, impossible to ignore. Red lights flickered across the walls, bathing the sleek metal corridors in urgency. Kyra's ears flattened against her skull. Her instincts screamed danger. She sprinted toward the reactor control room, claws scraping metal, tail swishing like a whip. A group of saboteurs, masked, armored, and armed with plasma disruptors, emerged, intent clear in their narrowed eyes. Kyra's pulse quickened, but her face remained an unbroken mask of defiance. "You picked the wrong colony to mess with," she hissed, baring her teeth. Her voice reverberated in the metallic corridor like a low drumbeat. The saboteurs hesitated for only a heartbeat. Then came the blast, a sudden surge of energy from a plasma device, tearing through the chamber. Kyra dove to the side, metal singing under the heat of the discharge. Sparks rained down like fireflies, and she could taste the acrid tang of burning circuits. Her claws dug into the floor, her body tense, heart pounding. And then a hand shot out, a human hand, impossibly steady amid chaos. Jalen, eyes wide but focused, yanked her back just as another pulse of plasma flared. She landed on her back, chest heaving, tail curling protectively. His grip was firm, surprisingly confident for a species she had always regarded as fragile, untested. "You can't fight them all alone," he said, his voice calm against the storm of alarms. Sweat glistened on his forehead, but his hands were steady, his stance balanced. He was a human, and humans had a way of defying expectations, a way of surviving when logic or instinct said they shouldn't. Kyra glared at him, pride and frustration warring in her chest. "I don't need saving." "And you almost died," he shot back, a hint of exasperation in his tone, yet no mockery. "So, technically, I did save you." His eyes flicked to the damaged reactor, then back to her. "And, technically, the colony thanks me too." Her claws flexed, brushing sparks off her arms. A grudging respect prickled beneath the surface, though she would never admit it aloud. Humans were strange, reckless, persistent, endlessly surprising. And right now, the sheer audacity of one had just saved her life. Kyra rose slowly, muscles coiling like springs, tail twitching with tension. She studied him, this human, something flickering behind her alien pride. Perhaps he was worth watching. The alarms continued their relentless wail, but in that instant, amid the metallic tang of ozone and the hum of the dying reactor, the unyielding warrior felt a tremor of uncertainty, and, for the first time in years, curiosity. The market hub of THRYNN9 sprawled like a neon jungle, a maze of glowing stalls, hovering cargo drones, and alien merchants shouting in discordant tongues. The smell of sizzling protein synth metallic ozone and a faint tang of exotic alien spices hung thick in the air. Kyra stalked alongside Jalen, tail flicking with irritation, ears twitching at every sound. Humans didn't belong here, not in her world of precision, protocol, and survival, but somehow he navigated with an ease that both baffled and infuriated her. "You really don't need to flirt with every vendor," she muttered, gesturing toward a human-appearing merchant who was laughing at something Jalen said. He grinned, eyes crinkling. "I'm not flirting. Negotiation works better when the other party thinks you're charming." He reached out to a floating hollow display, manipulating it with deft fingers. Within moments, a shipment of energy cells had been rerouted, payment confirmed, and a minor scuffle with an alien enforcer avoided entirely. Kyra's brow furrowed. In her world, this would have ended in a fight, or at least a dozen formal complaints. And yet, here it worked. Humans were absurd, chaotic, and irritatingly clever. "You're lucky," she said, her voice rough but grudging. "Luck." Jalen's smile softened, but his eyes remained sharp. "No. Observation. Improvisation. Taking risks that actually make sense most of the time." He glanced at her, and she caught the faintest flicker of amusement behind his human confidence. "You could use a little of that flexibility." Kyra's claws flexed at his words. Alien culture prized strength, discipline, and honor above all else. To admit the usefulness of human stubbornness felt like betrayal. Yet, she couldn't deny it. The colony depended on people like him. The way he anticipated movements, predicted reactions, and adjusted on the fly. It was unlike anything she had seen in the rigid ranks of her warrior peers. Their walk brought them to a hovering cafe above the marketplace. Hollow signs flickered in soft blue light, displaying the swirling patterns of distant galaxies. They settled at a table that floated just off the ground, and Jalen extended a plate of synthesized protein to her. "You eat first," he said, tilting his head. "I'll explain." Kyra sniffed, reluctant, then took a cautious bite. The flavor was foreign, strangely satisfying. She lifted her eyes to his, noticing the subtle confidence, the way he moved, the calm curiosity with which he observed everything. Humans had a way of seeing possibilities others missed, of bending rules without breaking them, and of surviving when sheer strength wasn't enough. "And what exactly are you explaining?" she asked, still suspicious. "The human way," he replied, eyes glinting. "Adapt, observe, adjust, even when everyone else says no. That's why I'm alive, and why the colony isn't in flames yet." He tapped the table, emphasizing the final point. "And maybe why you're still standing, too." Kyra blinked. For the first time in years, she considered that perhaps strength wasn't everything. Perhaps there was merit in this strange, chaotic species. And perhaps this human, with his infuriating confidence and unshakable curiosity, was worth watching closer than she'd ever admit. The neon glow of the market reflected in her amber eyes, a flicker of curiosity breaking through her unyielding pride. The corridors of THRYN 9 station were quieter than usual, the usual buzz of hover drones and merchant chatter replaced by a tense metallic stillness. Kyra's claws clicked softly on the polished alloy floor, her senses straining with every hum, every flicker of light. Jalen moved beside her, human eyes scanning the shadows, fingers brushing against concealed tools at his belt. The station had always been dangerous, but tonight the danger was invisible, hidden in whispers, coded messages, and untrustworthy glances. Kyra's tail twitched. "Something's off," she muttered, ears swiveling toward the faint vibration of a concealed engine. Humans might have relied on machines, but aliens like her could feel the pulse of energy before it even registered on a scanner. "That's because it is off," Jalen said, his voice low, calm. "I intercepted transmissions. Someone's planning a coup. Not just sabotage. A full takeover." He handed her a hollow pad, projections flickering in midair, encrypted messages, cryptic symbols, and movement patterns of unknown figures. Kyra studied them, jaw tight. They moved like shadows, slaves of their own fear, hiding behind tech and deceit. "You're lucky to survive this long, human." Jalen smirked, though his eyes were serious. "Luck helps. Observation and improvisation help more." He adjusted a small device on his wrist, scanning the walls for concealed disruptors. "We need to move fast before they hit the central command. And you'll need to trust me." Trust. Kyra's claws flexed instinctively. Trust was alien to her, Reliance meant vulnerability. And yet, the way Jalen moved, the way he anticipated threats before she even sensed them, was proof that humans were unpredictable, audacious, and strangely reliable. Their path took them through zero-gravity maintenance shafts, where sparks from exposed conduits danced like fireflies in weightless arcs. Kyra pushed off walls with precise control, tail bracing her movements as Jalen floated alongside, using magnetic grips to stabilize himself. "I don't need a guide," she growled, though her movements mirrored his with almost involuntary coordination. Suddenly, a team of masked assailants dropped from above, disruptors humming. Kyra lunged forward, claws slicing through the air, plasma scorching the walls where she struck. Jalen pivoted mid-floating, tossing a makeshift EMP grenade that disabled several attackers' weapons. Sparks, ozone, and the acrid smell of burning circuitry filled the shaft. Kyra froze for a split second, not from fear, but from surprise. Humans weren't just clever. They adapted in ways aliens couldn't predict. Jalen's mind worked like a weapon itself, improvising with instinct and daring. She felt a grudging respect, maybe even something more dangerous, admiration, curiosity, and a flicker of something unnameable. By the time they reached the Central Command, both were breathing heavily, sweat mixing with the metallic tang of the station. Kyra's amber eyes softened, just slightly. "You're different," she admitted, voice low, almost hesitant. "Different is good," Jalen replied, wiping grime from his face, smirking despite exhaustion. "It keeps you alive." In that suspended, neon-lit chamber, surrounded by blinking consoles and the distant hum of the station's engines, Kyra realized something. Strength wasn't only muscle. Strategy, improvisation, courage, traits humans had in spades, could tip the scales of fate. And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel unshakable, she felt intrigued. The cargo freighter drifted silently through the outer rim of THR-109's orbit, its hull glowing faintly under the pale light of distant suns. Kyra crouched on the narrow catwalk, tail coiled like a spring, claws gripping the cold metal as her amber eyes scanned the shadows. Jalen moved beside her, human agility tempered by careful calculation, fingers brushing switches and conduits with instinctive precision. Every panel, every flicker of neon light, seemed alive, hiding threats that only the vigilant would notice. "They're expecting us to follow protocol," Kyra muttered, voice low, tail flicking. "The Council would never approve. Never. But rules are meaningless when the colony's life is at stake." Jalen glanced at her, eyes reflecting both tension and amusement. "Rules are overrated. Observation, improvisation, and courage, they get results. Besides," he paused, letting a grin tug at his lips, "sometimes breaking them is the only way to survive." Her jaw tightened. Alien culture prized order, discipline, and honor above all. Breaking rules, acting outside protocol, was a mark of weakness or madness. And yet, she couldn't deny the effectiveness of his approach. Humans didn't follow the rigid lines of custom. They bent, adapted, and thrived in chaos. Suddenly, the freighter jolted violently. Kyra's claws scraped the metal as she lunged for balance. Explosions rocked the hull, disruptor fire from hidden assailants, and the zero-gravity shafts became a deadly obstacle course. Sparks arced across the walls, ozone burning her nostrils, the metallic tang of the ship's atmosphere thick with danger. "Cover me," Jalen shouted, ducking behind a bulkhead. He activated a makeshift magnetic launcher, propelling a shield module toward the attackers. Kyra's body moved on instinct, leaping from wall to wall, claws flashing, plasma discharges searing through confined space. The air thrummed with kinetic energy, every heartbeat echoing in the metal corridors. Amid the chaos, something unspoken passed between them, a recognition of shared vulnerability and trust. Kyra, the unyielding warrior, felt the odd, unsettling warmth of reliance. Not just survival, but a connection, a bond forming in the eye of a storm. "You're insane!" she hissed as she rolled to avoid a burst of plasma. Her chest heaved, tail wrapping protectively around her. And yet effective. Jalen shot back, eyes alight with adrenaline. He reached for her, hand steady, anchor in the storm. We do this together or we fail together. For the first time, Kyra considered that maybe strength wasn't measured in isolation. Strategy, courage, and trust could amplify power, and humans, fragile, audacious, endlessly inventive humans, excelled at it. She dodged another blast, feeling the thrill of danger and the warmth of human ingenuity beside her. When the corridor finally fell silent, the attackers neutralized, Kyra leaned against the cold wall, chest heaving. Her gaze met Jalen's. He smiled, breathless but unbroken, and for a fleeting moment, the unyielding alien warrior allowed herself to soften. "You're different," she admitted, voice low, almost a whisper. "And you're starting to notice," he replied, eyes glinting in the dim light. "That's a good start." For a moment, amid the hum of the freighter's engines and the faint glow of distant stars to the viewport, Kyra felt the impossible, respect, admiration, and the stirrings of something far more dangerous. Something she had never allowed herself before, trust, and maybe even connection. The central reactor chamber of THR-9 glowed with an eerie, pulsating light, casting long shadows across the high-tech conduits and exposed machinery. The air hummed with energy so dense it made Kyra's claws tingle, tail coiling with tension. Sparks danced along the walls where conspirators' disruptors had already struck, and a low, metallic groan echoed to the chamber as the station adjusted to sudden power fluctuations. Jalen moved like a storm contained within a human frame, eyes scanning every panel, every crevice. "Kyra, over here," he barked, voice sharp yet calm. He twisted a handheld interface with dexterity only humans seem capable of, rerouting power through auxiliary circuits, buying them precious seconds. These controls aren't built for aliens or anyone else. But humans? Improvisation is our edge. Kyra leapt across the catwalk, claws scraping metal as she deflected plasma bolts from an approaching saboteur. Her amber eyes glowed in the pulsating light, muscles coiled with lethal precision. "You and your edge," she hissed, voice laced with admiration and exasperation. "Humans think too much, yet somehow it works." "They do think too much." Jalen shot back, flipping a panel to redirect energy pulses toward the saboteur's weapons. Sparks sprayed into the chamber, illuminating the determination etched across his face. "But we also adapt, observe, act, survive." He glanced at her, the faintest smirk tugging at his lips. "And sometimes we can even save aliens who refuse to admit they need it." Kyra rolled her eyes, but the corner of her mouth twitched in something like amusement. Together, they moved as a unit, his improvisation her strength. Each human instinct complemented her alien training. The conspirators fell one by one, unable to anticipate the unorthodox combination. Suddenly, a massive surge in the reactor threatened to overload the chamber. Kyra felt the vibration under her claws, smelled the ozone-rich air. Without thinking, she launched herself onto a control console, tail bracing her balance, muscles straining to reroute the plasma flow. Jalen followed, human hands deftly connecting improvised conduits. Sparks flew around them like fireflies, the heat and tension making every second feel like an eternity. "Almost there." "Kyra, hold it," Jalen shouted, straining as a critical pulse threatened to cascade into a meltdown. She gritted her teeth, claws scraping through metal panels, tail wrapped around a support beam, and with a final push, the surge dissipated. The chamber fell silent, the only sound the lingering hum of the reactor stabilizing. Kyra straightened, chest heaving, amber eyes meeting Jalen's. I underestimated you, she admitted, voice quiet but sincere. Humans are unpredictable, dangerous, and valuable. Jalen extended a hand, sweat glistening on his brow. You're learning fast, he said with a grin. We're not just survivors. We're innovators. We're human. Kyra's tail flicked slowly, and she allowed herself a small, approving nod. The edge she had always relied on, strength, fearlessness, solitude, was now sharpened by the unlikeliest of allies. Humans were flawed, audacious, chaotic, and perhaps, just perhaps, the key to a future she hadn't dared imagine. Amid the neon glow and the hum of the stabilized reactor, a quiet understanding passed between them. Victory had been won not by might alone, but by ingenuity, trust, and the unique audacity of a human. And for the first time, Kyra felt a thrill of possibility, tinged with something far more personal. A bond she couldn't yet name but wouldn't forget. The neon skyline of Ticharwanen, 9 stretched endlessly beyond the observation dome, a rye of violet and jade light reflecting off the station's sleek towers and hovering ships. Kyra leaned against the cold metal railing, tail curling around her legs, amber eyes tracing the chaotic beauty of the colony she had fought to protect. Beside her, Jalen adjusted a panel on his wrist device, but his gaze kept returning to her, human curiosity sparkling in his eyes. For the first time, Kyra allowed herself to exhale. The conspirators were defeated, the colony secure, and the hum of the station's engines no longer carried the threat of sabotage. Yet, it wasn't just victory she felt. It was a quiet, almost dizzying weight of connection. The human who had taken her and had not only saved her life, but shown her a new dimension of strength, one that transcended muscle, honor, and solitary pride. You've changed, Jalen said softly, voice cutting to the hum of engines. He stepped closer, hands relaxed but steady, a human anchor in the swirling chaos of light and motion. Not just you, the way you see things, the way you trust. Kyra's claws flexed, but she didn't move away. I've learned that strength alone is not enough. That sometimes relying on others doesn't make you weak, she admitted, voice low, almost hesitant. The words felt alien on her tongue, but true. Humans had shown her that courage, ingenuity, and heart could tip the scales in ways sheer power could not. Jalen smiled, a mixture of relief and pride lighting his features. Exactly. Humans have this ridiculous persistence. We adapt, we survive, and sometimes we even inspire aliens to see the world differently. He reached out, fingers brushing hers. The contact was light, almost electric, and yet it carried the weight of everything they'd endured together. Kyra allowed herself a small, rare smile. Perhaps you are not so fragile after all, she murmured, amber eyes glinting with mischief and respect. Fragile? Never, Jalen replied, leaning closer, voice soft but confident. Humans aren't just survivors. We're audacious. We bend reality with curiosity and courage. And sometimes, his gaze deepened, we find something worth protecting, worth connecting with. The station thrummed beneath them, alive with energy and possibility. Kyra felt her tail wrapped loosely around Jalen's wrist, a gesture of trust and acknowledgement, a subtle acknowledgement that she was no longer entirely unyielding. Together, they stood on the edge of the colony, 2 different species bound by shared trials, shared victories, and the spark of something neither had expected, a bond stronger than fear, stronger than pride. For Kyra, the fiercest warrior in the colony, the realization was humbling and exhilarating. Strength alone had never been enough. But alongside this human, alongside ingenuity, audacity, and trust, she was unstoppable. Jalen brushed a hand across her cheek, careful, reverent, and Kyra didn't flinch. The station's neon glow reflected in their eyes, 2 hearts, indomitable, unyielding, and perhaps inseparable. Amid the hum of engines, the distant chatter of ships, and the shimmering lights of Tijuana 9, Kyra allowed herself to hope. Humanity had shown her a new kind of strength, and for the first time, she saw a future where humans and aliens could not just coexist but thrive together. And in that moment, the unyielding warrior and the audacious human knew that what they had survived was only the beginning. Kyra stood at the edge of the observation deck, the neon sprawl of Tijuana 9 stretching beneath them like a river of violet and jade light. Beyond the viewport, alien constellations glittered against the ink-black void, distant suns twinkling like promises. The faint hum of the Starship's engines beneath the station resonated through the floor, mingling with the soft pulse of artificial gravity. Jalen stepped beside her, hand brushing against hers, a gentle reminder that she was no longer alone in this vast, chaotic universe. "The colony is safe," he said softly, eyes reflecting both pride and wonder. "Because we didn't just fight, we adapted. Together." Kyra's tail wrapped around his wrist, claws flexing in a rare gesture of trust. "I thought strength alone would protect everything," she admitted, amber eyes glimmering. "But humans, you taught me courage isn't just about fighting. It's about seeing possibilities, surviving, and connecting." Jalen smiled, leaning closer, letting their foreheads touch. "We're stubborn, audacious, reckless, and somehow it works," he murmured. "We're human, and maybe that's enough to change the galaxy."